very happy to be here with you, Will. Kassouf, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Will Kassouf, yeah.
Anyone calls you William?
Only my mum when I'm in trouble, when I'm a naughty boy. Or William.
William?
But,
yeah.
No, usually Will. All my friends call me Will.
Okay,
so.
okay. How long have you been in playing poker?
I've been at 12, 13 years now. I've been playing poker. 34, getting 34. Old. Feeling like an old man now.
No,
yeah.
You're all right, you're all right.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we watched it yesterday. I've been following it. A lot of people have been following it. The 13th episode was yesterday, right? And how was it to watch it?
Episode 30 in the WSOP, yeah, it was quite hard to watch. Watching with a few of the Brits over here. There's 9 of us actually watching it. I think one of our friends put the post up on Facebook and Twitter, 9 CUNTs watching like a boss, watching the WSOP coverage. So that was quite funny. Yeah, it's good watching it back, quite surreal, watching it obviously knowing what happens, but first time seeing it on the broadcast, being edited and broadcast on ESPN. So it's a pretty brutal way to go out. Obviously, everyone's seen it now. Aces against ace check, blind on blind, ace high flop, and then kings into aces. Pretty sick. So yeah, it's sick to watch that back. Even sicker to see what happened today. I think viewers have been catching up wearing this sick t-shirt. I knew today was going to be a sick day, no matter what happened. Play EPT Malta, main event, day 2, get on the feature table from the off, # randomly rigged, obviously, put me on the feature table. Obviously. And then kings into aces again. You cannot make this shit up. It was literally the same thing, kings into aces. After watching it, literally a few hours ago, I watched it on WSB, kings into aces. I come and play live here, and kings into aces, I'm out of Malta. So.
And it would have been a nice stack if you won that hand, right?
It was, yeah, over 100k chip pot. So, yeah, pretty sick. But hands play themselves, that's it. But quite brutal.
Of course, yeah. Well, would you say that... if you compare to the positive responses you get from people who've seen you, and to the ones who said negative things about you that you met, what do you have mostly? What do you hear mostly? What do you get?
The comments I've had recently?
I mean, comments from people who've seen you during the World Series broadcasts.
Yeah.
And seen you play and so on. And when you meet people, what is the most common thing that you hear?
Everyone's been loving the coverage for the most part. I think I've had more positive comments than negative comments.
Of course, yeah.
I think a lot of people are loving my banter, the speech play, the entertainment factor. Just generally, poker in general just needs characters in the game. You need characters, you need personalities. It's a dying game otherwise. And it's great for TV poker. It's debatable. Some people are asking whether it's good for poker or not, the way I play and my antics and speech play strategy, whatever. But as far as TV poker is concerned, entertainment-wise, you just can't beat it. So this is what live poker is about. You've got to enjoy yourself, just have fun at the table. It's a social game, a social environment. You're sitting there for the best part of 12 hours a day for 7 days in the main event just to make the final table. You're not going to sit there in silence and say nothing for 12 hours a day. What's the point? You might as well stay at home and sit in the underpants and click on the mouse button and play online. If you can't take the banter and speech play on the table, even engage in conversation. Each their own. Some people are going to be like social, active, outgoing kind of people like myself, and you're going to be quite conversational across the table. You're going to converse with others across the table. You're going to enjoy yourself and open up and be that happy, jovial kind of chap. There's others at the table who will be more reserved, a bit more conservative, a bit more keep themselves to themselves, if you like, and don't want to do anything like that. That's fine by me. I've got nothing against that. But yeah, so they say how you play poker depends on your personality. But as far as TV poker is concerned, 100% it's needed for characters and personalities in the game to keep the game going. For both the players and spectators watching the game.
Do you think that they edited it? That's a hard word for me to say. Edit. When they did the edit for the shows on ESPN and so on, do you think they made it look worse? Made you look a bit worse, or did you think it was proper?
I think they did a good job actually of doing this like hero villain kind of storyline. I think I was in every single episode from episode 1
some
to
episodes were just you.
Episode 13. Some were just me. I mean, even Norman Shad and Lon McCarran dubbed it as the World Series of Poker, literally because it was just about me. So it's a phenomenal amount of coverage. It's just been immense. It's been surreal. The amount of comments I've had, like Twitter and Facebook, has just been blowing up on my phone. I'd like to say apologies to all the people that have messaged me in the last 2, 3, 4 days. I've had like 1,200 messages come through literally overnight in the last like 8 hours or so. Daily, in the last 2-3 weeks, I've been getting like 700-800 messages a day. No joke. I've got screenshots on my phone to prove it. It's been relentless. It's been sick. Today, like I said, over 1,250, 1,300 messages now come through on Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, text, emails, a lot. So it's just been redonkulous, really. So yeah, obviously loving all the coverage, the publicity, and everything, but It's going to take me some time to get back to every single one of you individually in terms of all your messages.
Well, you can say it here.
Yeah.
Exactly. What is that? Yeah, you get some. There you go. You got some messages now as we speak. You see, that's from some people you know.
That's it.
Love you, game brother. See, you get some
game,
positive
brother.
stuff.
Play the way you want and enjoy.
Yeah.
That's it.
Indeed. You got to enjoy the game. It's live poker today. So
yeah, I mean, this isn't new for you. Have you been doing this since you started, like when you were 20, 21, something like that, 22?
Yeah, since 21, since I finished uni.
Yeah. And this is the way you've always been when it comes to. You're very active and works the mouth a bit.
Yeah, being an active, like sociable kind of guy, and like to engage in conversation, like to be a nice, happy chap at the table, if you like. Keeps myself awake, keeps myself entertained, as well as others on the table. You're there, like I said, in a live playing in a live tournament. So you're there to enjoy yourself. Why would you sit there in silence and not enjoy the experience of playing in a live poker tournament? Yeah. But each to their own. You know, everyone has their own way of playing, their own style of playing, their own personality, and how they act and how they react on the poker table. So this is what makes for a great game, really, because you got people from all walks of life, from all different kind of backgrounds with different personalities. They are all going to clash. Some will clash, some will, team up with you and have similar personalities. So this is what makes the game go around. You're moving constantly from table to table as each table breaks in the tournament, and you're constantly getting introduced to new people at the table.
You get to meet new
and
people.
Yeah, it's a great social game, and that's me in a nutshell. I'm a sociable kind of guy and like to get involved and have some fun. I'm a chilled out, laid back kind of a guy. So I just like to enjoy myself in whatever I do.
Do you feel sometimes? Can you? I wouldn't say you feel bad about it, or you obviously understand that this works for it's good for your game.
Yeah.
But you're also humbled. If someone takes offense, right? Are you? Or do you have clashes with people afterwards and so on? Talk to them in a nice and slow way.
Yeah, well, I do my speech in every hand, regardless of whether I'm on the feature table, off the feature table, $100 tournament, 10K main event, male or female, I don't discriminate. So I do my speech in every hand. Some people let it get under their skin. They're not used to the banter. They're not used to the speech. They're not used to all this time taking in between hands, interrogating their questions, a constant barrage of questions. Some say it's incessant, it's relentless. But it's part of the game. It's trying to get information from you, essentially. Whether you like it or not, I'm going to give you the speech in every hand. I try and keep it as entertaining, as fun as possible. There's never any malice involved. I don't insult anyone. I don't berate anyone at the table. It's not my style. So some people are trying to compare me to Tony G. I'm nothing like him because I don't berate or insult anyone. If anything, some people are saying I'm more like the British version of Danny Negreanu in terms of trying to get reads off my opponents, trying to understand the situation that's before me, and trying to have a laugh and a joke and keep it entertaining with the other players on the table. So that's me in a nutshell. But I think some people take it the wrong way, get rubbed up the wrong way, get it under the skin and go on super donkey tilt, as I like to say.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember in 2006, I was there at the World Series, and I remember Jamie Gold said that he was encouraged by the TV crew and so on to talk a lot and to speak and to do antics at the table. And then afterwards, people was kind of onto him. What do you think of the way he played in 2006? You've seen it, right?
Yeah, I've seen the way he played. Yeah, it's pretty sick. A majority of the time, he told people what he had. I've been doing that for years, and that's a whole psychological aspect of the game. And I think that's a skill part of the game, a talent, if you like. If you can actually be sitting there and you're willing to converse with your opponent across the table, you're willing to tell him the holding that you have, you're willing to tell him what you literally have for them, and then put them to the test as to whether they want to believe you or not, and get them to think, is he really telling the truth? Why would he tell me the exact hand he has if he wants me in the pot? So this is where the whole reverse psychology comes in. You're trying to think what he's thinking, you're thinking he has. So it's a whole different level in terms of the psychological element of the game, and that's a skill in the game. Why would you take that away? Why should it be stifled like it was in the WSOP? It should be more encouraged, especially when a heads-up pot. You're there against another opponent in the pot. You're not influencing anyone else's action. You're not colluding with anyone. You're there. It's you versus your opponent. Pure mind games. Get into their head, trying to think what they've got, and if at the same time it puts them on tilt, so be it. Then it plays right into my hands. It's effectively a massive advantage for me. Helps my game. I put them on edge, put them out of their comfort zone, put the pressure on them in a high pressure environment like the World Series main event, when the cameras, the spotlight, everything is on them, and every decision matters. It's you're under the biggest microscope in poker in the World Series, a poker main event. So to put the pressure on your opponent, to get them rattled, and to do what I did effectively on day 7 was a great achievement. I think I was surprised and shocked. I think on day 7 especially how the players acted and reacted towards me, like name calling me and doing what they did is one thing, but the fact that they were so rattled at that stage of the tournament. 21 players left with the caliber of players we're talking about. We're talking about some of the best players in the world here. Multi-bracelet winners, multi-millionaires, Cliff Josephy, Jared Blesnick, Gordon Vayo, Kenny Hallett, all these big name pros, and they just completely lost it. And it was too easy. I honestly felt, no disrespect to them, but felt as if I was playing in a $100 comp with a bunch of amateurs. The way they were acting and reacting on the table, I thought, I'll never see anything like it. Moaning and bitching to the TD, and it was ridiculous.
Because the guy who watches the show in hindsight and guesses that it has been a lot that we won't see, obviously. But do you think wasn't it deserved at all? I mean, what did you think? Because I heard you say something about that. You also got a threat from Jack Effel, right? That wasn't recorded. It wasn't shown. What was that all about?
Yeah, that's what I'm disappointed in with the coverage from episode 13. I think some people have mentioned, how come he's uncharacteristically quiet? He's not saying a word now. He looks so serious. He looks pissed off. He looks angry, but he's not saying a single word. He's not being himself, and that's unlike me. Obviously, it was unlike me. What they failed to show on the ESPN coverage, which I think the public need to know, and I think it should be out there, was Jack Effel came up to me on the feature table. So clearly they had it in the coverage that they chose not to broadcast it. Jack Effel came up to me on the feature table, and he said, if this carries on, i.e. my speech playing heads up pots, which is perfectly within the rules, and I wasn't insulting or brain anyone, if this carries on, I'm going to give you a 3-round penalty. 3 whole rounds.
Heard about that.
Never heard that in the history of poker. He threatened me with a 3-round penalty if I carried on doing what I was doing. So effectively he's telling me to shut up, and if you don't shut up, I'm going to give you 3 rounds. So obviously I had to be careful what I said. I have to be careful in my actions. If I open my mouth, then I'll potentially be subject to a 3-round penalty.
And what was the blinds
and
like
the blinds were 150, 300,000. So I'd lose quite a few million in chips just on 3
sure,
whole rounds. So it's ridiculous for him to threaten that, which I thought is completely out of line. I think he was power tripping. I think he succumbed to the pressure of the big name players like Cliff Josephy, Jared Blesnick, Gordon Vayo. They all piped up and all chimed in. It was like, I felt as if Cliff Josephy was like the ringleader of the gang, if you like. He was like the shepherd of the flock, waving his stick around, going on tilt because he couldn't take the speech play, and me taking my time in every hand and giving the speech. He didn't see the benefit of it or understand what I was doing, how I was doing it, or why I was doing it. He let it get under the skin. Everyone else jumped on the bandwagon like they were his flock of sheep, like a meh to the TD, and moaning and bitching rather than taking it like grown men, with the caliber of players that you're talking, we're not talking about a bunch of amateurs here. We're talking about some of the best in the world, multi-bracelet winners, multi-millionaires, and this is how they're reacting to it: banter and speech play on the table, letting it get on their skin. So I think that was ridiculous. So and then to have the TD against me was quite bad as well.
Yeah, one part of the chess part of it, if you want to call it that, sometimes you are doing something to use it in a later hand, right? Obviously, you're creating character also not only in that very hand you're playing, but also for hands to come. Is that something you have practiced a lot?
That's it. Yeah.
Well, is there a secret to it that is it like, how does that work actually when you think about it? Because sometimes you could see hands where you played them, and sorry. And obviously you're not going to do something particular in this very hand, but you're going to use it in a later hand. Tell me about that. You know what I'm talking about.
In terms of doing my speech play, well,
I mean, if you do something when you probably have made up your mind, but you're thinking about it just to create character for a future similar position where you will have another decision.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I mean, I've mixed up my speech play depending on the player that I'm up against in the pot. Depending if I want them to call, I want them to fold. But I try to mix it up. I try to use similar lines but for different scenarios. So give them the same speech when I'm bluffing, and do one speech when I'm bluffing. Do the same speech when I'm effectively got the goods and I want to get paid off. And I think it worked out. Showing bluffs at the table as well enabled me then to, when I had the goods, I was then going to get paid off because I've shown bluffs in previous hand and given the same speech and made the same kind of bet. So it worked to my advantage in that way. So being unpredictable is a key trait to have on the poker table.
Of course, yeah.
So if I'm doing the same speech when I got it and the exact same speech when I'm bluffing, the top players would then pick up on this, and then they'd effectively suss out my game. So I've got to mix it up and be unpredictable all the time, and try and mix it up and confuse them, get in their minds basically.
Course,
and if at the same time it gets under their skin, and they're going to go on super donkey tilt and react the way they do at that level on day 7 on the bosses of Poker Main Event, then so be it. Then it's going to play into my hands, and it's made an easier time for me.
I think it was 2008. I think it was 2008 when Hevad Khan. They inducted, or whatever you call it, a new rule, the Hevad Khan rule, which was excessive celebrating. This is something else. Do you think there will be a Kassouf rule for the next year of World Series.
It's interesting you say that. I think a lot of people have been calling for that. I'd love it if they did have a rule.
Rule for the
Will Kassouf rule. Yeah, I think they should. Well, it's 10 years on since Jamie Gold won it in 2006. It's 10 years on now. So why not have a Will Kassouf rule following the Jamie Gold rule and Havard Khan rule? Yeah, but I think the rules, on a serious note, I think the rules definitely have to change. I think Jack Effel had a nightmare of a directing of the tournament. This summer anyway. I think generally I think he's a good TD. He hasn't done much wrong in the past, but this year I thought he had a really bad tournament in terms of his rulings, in terms of his judgment, in terms of his discretion. He made some fundamental errors, even in his own rules, saying especially like the hand that you've seen, the pocket threes against the ace-8. That there's so many things wrong with that hand.
I was a bit confused about that, what he said, because that was, you weren't, it was up to you.
Yeah.
It was your decision. If the other person is trying to come up with a good solution and you're disturbing them while they think, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But here was different, right?
Yeah, the whole point, it's specific in the WSB rules, and Daniel Negreanu mentioned it in the podcast that he had with me earlier. The only time you can engage a conversation with your opponent and speak to them about your hand is when you're closing the action. Closing the action meaning you've made a bet, they've gone all in, the action's folded to you, there is no more action. Either you're calling or you're folding, and that's it. There's no one else involved in the pot, there's no more chips behind, you're closing the action. That's exactly the scenario here, which was so bizarre, which made Jack Effel's ruling sound even more ridiculous at the time. When he came up to the table, in the middle of a hand as well, when no one called him to the middle of the hand, it was Charlie Serazian initially who mentioned one player per hand. I said, excuse me, what do you mean one player per hand? I'm looking at my hand, what do you mean one player per hand? You cannot discuss with your opponent or ask him what you want to do. I said, what are you talking about? He's gone all in. The decision's on me. I'm just trying to get information from my opponent as to whether I want him to call or not. Well, why can't I do that? What are you talking about? One player per hand. Didn't make sense. He then went on to Jack Effel. He had a word with him. Jack Effel then came to the feature table in the middle of a hand while I'm facing an all-in bet. And then Jack Effel, tournament director of the World Series of Poker, decided that this was the right time to come straight in without letting the hand play out, without letting the clock being called and the hand play out and call or fold or whatever, let the hand finish, and would have been the most common sense thing to do. Would have said, William, could you please come over here? Can I have a word? I want to talk to you about what just happened. That would have been the most common sense thing to do. Why come in the middle of the hand when my opponent's gone all in, I'm facing an all-in bet, to then come and tell me, after I explained to him, well, he's gone all in, I'm just trying to get information, I'm asking a couple of questions. And he said, it's none of your business whether he wants you to call or not. I said, excuse me, what do you mean it's none of my business? It's every bit in my business. He's gone all in, I've got the decision here. He goes, you have to play your hand, you have to make your decision. I said, I understand that, Jack, but he's gone all in. I'm the one with the decision here. He hasn't got any more decision to make. I'm entitled to ask this question. But he doesn't want to talk to you, he said. That's irrelevant if he wants to talk to me. Whether he wants to talk to me or not is irrelevant. The fact I'm entitled, within the rules, to ask him the questions. He's gone all in. I'm closing the action. I'm asking him, do you want me to call? Have you got ASR? I think we're racing. Do you want me to call? Yes or no? I'm entitled to ask all these questions. What's wrong with that? It's absolutely ridiculous. It's the only time you can actually speak to your opponent, when he comes in and says it's nothing to do with you, none of your business if he wants you to call or fold, and you have to play your hand. And that's it. It was complete bonkers. It's completely wrong. And then he had the audacity after that to say, I've been standing here for over a minute and you still haven't made your decision. Are you kidding me? He came over here to bark in my face for 2 whole minutes about something that was against the rules, which clearly wasn't against the rules. It was clearly in the rules. Yeah. And then has the audacity to say, listen, you're taking your time. And then the whole table kicks off about playing the hand. So we played the hand out, and I'm thinking about it. Obviously, I'm doing limited speech right now because he said I couldn't do it, which was ridiculous. I eventually asked, okay.
It's a tough decision, that one.
After he said, yeah, let's get on with the hand. So fine, I got on with the hand. I said, right, can I have a count, please? Because I hadn't asked for a count. I didn't know how much the all-in bet was, right? It's a chunk of my stack. It wasn't a massive amount of my stack, but I think we're flipping, right? But I still want to ask for a count. Asked for a count, and then Kenny Hallett, who's I was embarrassed for him when he acted like he did. He just stood up, oh, come on, man, you got to be kidding me. Now he's asking for a count. And shrugging, what, are you joking? What, do you know how much the bet is? Well, you tell me how much the bet is before the dealer cuts out the chips then. Do you know what I mean? So he just stood up from his chair and he was all effing and blinding about, are you kidding me now? Now he wants a count? Well, yeah, of course now I want a count. What do you mean? I was asking for information before. If you know how much the bet is, tell me. So clearly no one knew how much the bet was. I'm entitled to ask how much the count is. What was his problem? So it seemed like the whole table was like getting frustrated about it, the amount of time I was taking from it, getting the information from my opponent that I wanted to. They're not big talkers in the game. None of them did what I did. None of them were speech players to that effect. So I think that's what got them on edge. That's what put them out of their comfort zone. That's what put them on tilt. And that's what effectively gave me the chips to go from 6 million chips to 32 million on day 7. I went from like the shortest deck to chip leader on that table.
That was a pretty sweet streak.
Yeah, so in one level,
Of course
literally, in the space of 2 hours.
That was also part of their annoyance,
Yeah.
right? Of course,
Yeah.
they were tilted because you were winning all the chips.
Exactly. And they're paying me off light. Like Kenny Hallett called me with bottom pair with 6-7 offsuit.
Yeah.
And when I had top pair and I value bet when a flush came on the river and it paired the board, I value bet top pair and he paid me off 1.9 million.
Because
it's me.
Yeah,
because he's
because-
tilting. Because they're coming at me and that played right into my hands and they were all tilting even more.
Have you checked any rules and regulations when it comes to these things afterwards, or do you know the rules? Are there any rules against what you're doing at all?
No, I don't think there's any rules. I think there's one rule which is more like a discretionary rule. It comes down to the tournament director's decision then at the time, which obviously every tournament is going to have that to cover the tournament director's ass, basically, to say, well, if it's not explicitly in the rules, if it's not in rules 1 to 49, then rule 50 will say, well, the tournament director has his discretion to override all the other rules in his own judgment to say whatever he thinks is right for the integrity of the game and the sportsmanlike behaviour of the table. So if he thinks there's incessant chatter, it's being excessive, it's being disruptive, in his opinion, even though it's not specifically in the rules what I'm saying is doing right or wrong, effectively what I'm doing isn't against any of the rules, then he can then use his own discretion to say, yeah, it's gone too far now, it's been excessive, I'm going to give you a warning, I'm going to give you a penalty, which I think is ridiculous. And I think whilst that is part of poker, whilst that is part of the rules, I think he abused his power in that regard. I think he overused his discretion in the wrong way, especially on day 7 in that hand, pocket threes against the ace-8, to come into the middle of the hand was the first biggest, the worst thing that he could have done in the middle of the hand, when he could let the hand play out. Someone else call the clock. It's been a reasonable amount of time. You've got 2 minutes to act on your hand. I haven't acted. Someone call a clock. I've got 1 minute to act. Either I've made my action or my hand is dead. Simple as that. He can then call me to the side and have a word with me, which would be the logical thing. You would think like that. Anyone else with a bit of common sense would think that was the logical thing to do. Not to hold up proceedings even more, infuriate the players even more by him coming to the table and interrupting in the middle of the hand while I'm facing an all-in bet, which I think was completely ridiculous.
I saw you shook hands afterwards and so on. Have you talked to anyone after the World Series? Any of the players regarding these facts, or any of the tournament directors at all, or anything like that?
Not any of the players involved in the tournament. No, I haven't seen any of them. I'm not friends with any of them. I don't think they'd want to talk to me. I don't think they'd respond to me even if I did mention anything to them. I think I've let the whole world see on the ESPN coverage their true colours, how they acted, how they showed no class, no respect whatsoever, belittling me, trying to berate me across the table, insult me across the table, and not get any penalty or warning about it. I think that was double standards in terms of the actual rules, and this is why when you mentioned the Will Kassouf rule, how it has to change. There has to be clarity, there has to be transparency, there has to be consistency in the World Series of Poker rules, especially at that level, the biggest tournament in the world. And for them to have one rule for like Cliff Josephine and others to say, oh yes, it's fine for you to do what you did, and then one rule for me, like if I did it, then I would get a penalty. And one recent article I saw on Poker News, Jack Effel did a rare interview with Poker News. He doesn't usually do all this media kind of covering stuff, but he felt the need that he had to say something about the way he performed. And I think he sounds just as silly in the interview as he did with his remarks and his comments at the World Series main event at the time. In the interview, when he was questioned, Cliff Joseph called William Kassouf a clown, and you didn't penalise him then. How do you look back on that hand, and would you do anything different? And he openly admitted in the interview, which you can see on Poker News, I think Will brought it all on himself. He was asking for it. He was the antagonist. If you push someone into a corner so far, it's only a matter of time before someone retaliates. So I'm not going to give Josephine a penalty. So effectively what he's saying is, well, if you said something to me that I didn't like and you're being annoying towards me, even though you're playing within the rules, if you did something I didn't like, then I can call you an idiot. I can call you a clown. It's all right. That's fine, because you started it. You're the antagonist. Is that what he's saying? So if someone else starts it, you're allowed to call them a clown, you're allowed to insult them across the table. This is going to open a whole can of worms. I was shocked to hear something like that from the WSOP TD. I thought he might climb down a bit and admit that he might have been heavy-handed, admit that he succumbed to the pressure of the likes of Josephine and giving out that ruling. But how can you ever say, if somebody pushes your buttons that far or does something to annoy you, that then gives you the right to insult them across the table and you won't get a penalty? I think that's absolutely bonkers. If you put the shoe on the other foot, and I was the one who called Josephine a clown, if he did something to annoy me and I didn't like something that he did, even though he was playing within the rules, and I called him a clown, 100%, I say 100%, I'll get a one-round penalty instant, without any question. If I got a one-round penalty for taunting on day 5, which is absolute bullshit, if you ask me, when all I said is, you phone the show, I'll show, like mime to her, after I got told I couldn't say a word, which is another thing That was completely wrong. They said I couldn't speak, which is completely wrong. They have no right to say I can't talk. Then I had to mime to her because they don't say another word, you have a penalty. So I mimed to her, you fold and show, I'll show, without saying a word. And I got done for taunting for that. That was 100% taunting her. Even though there's no taunting whatsoever. I said, if you fold and show, I'll show. Just to convince her that you're going to see the hand anyway. You don't need to go call your whole stack off with one pair, because I know what she has. She's got a one pair hand. So if I got a 1 round penalty for that, imagine what penalty I would have got if I called Joseph or anyone else on the table a clown, compared to what he did. But he called me a clown 5 times and got no penalty. So we need some consistency in the rules. Definitely.
Yeah. Do you think there's a difference between European or, let's say, British standards when it comes to, because would you say this is more common around the cash game table? Do you see more guys similar to yourself, even if no one gets up to that level, on the cash game table than in the tournament?
I think it's a mixture of cash and tournaments. I've seen up and down the country now. I think they're going crazy trying to use my kind of like phrases, catchphrases like 9 high like a boss and the coconuts. I think everyone's going mad about it. It's good. It's great banter. It's great fun. It's live poker in the day. People see me as an inspiration to go to the World Series, to do what I did, to give it to all the Americans in their own backyard, and just to play my game. And just did nothing wrong, played within the rules, showed respect. I was courteous to every player there. I may have got under their skin. I may have been excessive with my chatter and banter, and every hand is relentless, and you can see why it gets under their skin. I can understand why it would probably get under their skin. But getting under your opponent's skin and putting your players on tilt is part of the game. It's part of poker. I don't go out of my way to do it, but if my speech play is getting it under their skin and putting them on tilt, and it means they're going to play badly and put them out of their comfort zone, then so be it. That's part of the game. It's going to benefit me. If that's an edge that you have, then you've got to go for it. At that level, in the World Series of Poker main event, day 7, you have to play your A game. You have to have no fear. Don't think about the money, the pay jumps. Just play your game. You're battling against like 7, 8 other players on your table, and you just got to do whatever you can, whatever it takes, however long it takes to win. You got to play to win.
Have you had any people that you kind of, when you were younger or even today, that you look at and see, I like that guy, he's doing something that I do, or any kind of inspiration in this area, you know what I mean? Maybe some of the there's some British guys that talks a lot around the table, right?
There are a few. I think I'm notorious for being probably the biggest talker in the UK, by far, in terms of what I do and the results I've got just from talking in the game. So I think I've been a massive inspiration for loads of players, grassroots players, come up through the ranks, and just seeing what I achieved in the World Series of Poker. I continue to play the same stakes. I just play 1-2, 1-3 Hold'em, 1-2 Omaha, and what? I got berated for that. They were belittling me on the table. I posted a £500 stack, like Matthew Moss mentioned. Oh, look, he only posted a £500 stack on Facebook and laughing about it.
Yeah, that was
taking the mic. Jared Blesnick then mentioned to Israel, he plays $10 tournaments and he's only playing for 4% of himself in the main event. So those kind of comments. It's unnecessary and it's bad for poker. I didn't feel insulted. I took it with a pinch of salt, took it on the chin, and I could see they're getting frustrated. I could see they're going on tilt, and they played right into my hands, and I bashed the table up, regardless of what they said or what they were doing to me, regardless of the whole table against me, regardless of the tournament director was against me, and he was wrong in his rulings. He made himself look silly. At the time, I had to deal with all of that and keep a cool head, focus on my game, keep strong up here to outsmart and outwit and outplay everyone else on the table, regardless of who they were, how many millions that they got in the bank, how many bracelets they won. I didn't give a shit. I just played my game my way, and that's how you got to focus, really. So,
I remember in 2006, William Thorsson was a guy. He finished 13th. He was in an excellent position. He lost to Jamie Gold, and he told me many years afterwards that he thinks about the jacks more or less every day for years and years. Are there ace jack, the aces versus the ace jack and the kings versus the aces at the World Series? Are they disturbing you in your sleep? Are you thinking about them?
Not really.
Is it gutting to think about them?
I don't. It doesn't disturb me.
Because those two hands in the same orbit, right?
Yeah, it's the same orbit. Yeah, aces lose to ace jack off against Gordon Weyer, but he's so blessed. I mean, he cracked aces twice. Once for his tournament life, I think, on day 5 or day 6 when he was all in with ace king against aces, all in pre-flop. And I think it was like Queen 10 on the flop and then Jack on the turn, just instant service, that kind of thing. So that kind of like blessedness that you need to get that far. He was a very lucky player, and in my opinion, didn't deserve to get that far. And not just from his plays and how he played and how lucky he got, but from his actual mentality, how he was, his manners on the table, how he was berating me, belittling me, exaggerating things, and bad mouthing me effectively, effectively like a Suez ass for slander for what he said, saying I berated a woman to tears. Absolute bullshit. First, I didn't berate anyone. whether it's male or female, and second, I didn't reduce anyone to tears. And I think someone's pointed out, Stacey Matheson, who's a lady concerned, has even posted a tweet on Twitter saying, he didn't reduce me to tears, I don't cry about poker. So if she's admitted that herself, why is Gordon Vail and the likes of him bad-mouthing me, trying to put me in a bad light? And this is why Griffin Benja and the other players were made aware of it, because of the likes of Vail spreading bad rumours about it. I berated the women to do. And Griffin Benga and Jerry Wong and others had this kind of perception, had this image of me being this vile individual who goes out to berate people, insults them, and does anything, which I'm anything but. And I think leading up to that hand, I think it was premeditated in terms of Griffin Benja, how he spoke to me, how he reacted to me, how he completely lost it, and to accuse me of saying, this is verbal abuse, you're verbally abusing me. Is he joking or what? He looked like an absolute fool saying that. He's been slated.
With him, right?
Haven't been playing him. No, first time I played with him, first hand I played with him. We only just, the tables broke, we were just put down to the last two tables, 18-handed. First time I was playing with Jerry Wong and Griffin Benja and a few of the other guys that hadn't played before, and this is the first hand we'd played. Never spoken to him, never seen him before, never played a hand with him before. This is the first hand, and from his reaction, I could tell, looking back at it now, this was premeditated. He knew what he was doing. He knew that he was going to flare up, and any opportunity he had to say something to me, to have a go at me, because of what he had and what he perceived me to be as this vile person trying to berate people. He just completely lost it and just went on a rant and a rave about me verbally abusing him, which I thought is laughable. It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing on his part. A player of his standing, voted #1 online player in the world a couple of years ago, for him to come out and say that this is verbal abuse, it's a joke. He's an absolute joke. It's a disgrace. It's disgraceful for the game to see that. It's like somebody blatantly feigning injury, like a clear dive. When a ball kicks him in, I think it was Rivaldo years ago in the World Cup, on the corner, and the ball hit him on his knee, and he went down like he'd been shot with his hand, hand holding his face like that, like the ball was in his face, and he got rewarded. He got a free kick for it or whatever happened. So it felt like that in the World Series. Like, what the hell?
Sent off or something, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then Griffin Benja was allowed to do that. I don't think they showed the early part when he completely lost it. He goes, "This is verbal abuse. This is verbal abuse. You're an idiot." I don't think they even showed that bit on the ESPN coverage. So I think it was dubbed down from how it was, because a really hostile environment. He really went for it, and he completely lost it. Like I was swearing and bitching at him, which I didn't do at all. He completely lost it. He called me an idiot across the table. He had the audacity to say, "This is verbal abuse." When he's verbally abusing me across the table and calling me an idiot, he's got the audacity to say, "This is verbally, you are verbally abusing me." This is embarrassing. All I said was, "I've got a big hand here, all in our pass, what do you want me to do?" Asking a few questions to see the strength of his hand, because I was genuinely thinking about folding kings. He's 4-bet under the gun. I know he's easily going to be 4-betting me with ace, king and queens, possibly even jacks. He knows I could 3-bet light in position. He doesn't want to play, a put-out position with ace, king, queens, even jacks. So I know he's going to be 4-betting me there with those hands. I'm only losing to one hand. He could have aces. I'm thinking he could have aces. I nearly folded it. I thought this could be the biggest and sickest laydown of the World Series if I lay down kings pre-flop. But having lost the hand previously with the ace against the ace-jack, with top set and lose to a flush, I lost 6-7 million in that hand and down to 13 mil. After our 3-bet, I've only got 11 million behind. So once he's made the 4-bet to 5.6 million, it's either a 5-bet sharp or fold. After that, their hands played themselves with that stack size. Had I not lost the hand with aces versus ace jack, and I had over 20 million still, or even won that hand, and the board paired up or whatever, or he folded the river, then I'd had over 25, 30 million. The hand plays completely different. I don't 5-bet, he's 6-bet, and I 7-bet jam. None of that happens. I get away from the hand, if not pre-flop, if not on the flop, then definitely on the turn. I'm not going to go broke with one pair. But with the stacks as they are, I think the hands played themselves at the end of the day. But still, that's not going to stop me from interrogating him, trying to get the question, trying to get the read of him to see how strong he was.
The thing is that there's obviously people watching this, they see the highlights. They see the highlights and those bits, and of course there's time between where you don't talk that much. There's time between where you play simple hands, but for the viewer it looks like you're doing this all the time. Are you doing it all the time, even in the hands we're not seeing? I mean, are you talking in every hand, or are you sitting back sometimes?
It depends. Well, when I'm involved in a hand, usually I'm talking. Like when I'm not involved in a hand, then I've got nothing to say. If I'm not in the pot, then I have to give the respect to the players who are involved in the hand to think about their decision, especially when I'm not involved. But when I am involved, especially when we're heads up, I'm going to play my A game. I'm going to use the edge that you have. I got complimented recently for a few French guys coming. Not only they love the banter, the entertainment, it's so great for TV, but they appreciate what I had was I found an edge in poker. I found an edge in live poker, which is right now, which is the most hard hardest thing to do right now in live poker, because everyone plays the same kind of level. They all dealing with the maths. They're looking at the odds. They've got the same kind of game theory, but not everyone's using the psychological edge. Not everyone's using this kind of theory that I'm doing. And they're saying, I found an edge in poker to really get under the player's skin, to use a strategy to get under the skin and using their mind games effectively, getting into your opponent's mind to understand what they're thinking, you're thinking they have. So on that kind of level, it's a new thing for poker, and that not everyone does extensively. And I think that's what people appreciate more from what they've seen. But generally, when I'm in hands, I'm going to be speeching in every hand. Like I said, male, female, feature table, off feature table, cameras, no cameras, $10 tournament, 10K tournament. It doesn't make a difference. It's part of my game. I've been doing it professionally for the last 3.5 years. So yeah, I don't change it for anything. Like I said, regardless of the tournament, regardless of cameras or no cameras, and who I'm up against, they'll get the speech in every hand.
Yeah. We're going to round this up, apparently.
We've got to round this up. We've got to go.
the talk is
we'll do a shout out to Dina Hassan. She's the governor, saying we have to move this safe. Oi.
It was really nice talking to you, Will. And maybe
Indeed, Rikard.
It would be nice to talk to you again. I mean, do you Skype at all?
I'm on Skype. Yeah.
So maybe we can have a talk over Skype, and if you do something, if something interesting happening.
Indeed.
All right. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks talking to you, Rikard.
Thank you.
It's been emotional. Cheers. Thank you. Cheers, guys, for listening. Cheers.